picture up. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Frankfort Today. Today we're joined by Mayor Layne Wilkerson. Across from the table from me is Craig Blanton, and I'm Eric. Let's get going.
Okay.
Greetings. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor.
Thanks for having me on Frankfort Today.
Yes. Very glad to have you on. Since we're limited on time, let's just jump right in, okay?
Sure.
Jump right in.
Okay. I saw something from Representative Dan Pfister that he posted on where they do the legislative minutes about safe haven baby boxes. Did a little research, reached out to Representative Pfister, and he sent me some information. And I thought, man, this would be great to put in our new fire station. And then this afternoon, I made a little post about it. This afternoon, John Sutphin, pastor out at Capital City Christian, he sent me some more information and said that he had reached out to y'all last summer with this. And do you think we got a possibility of doing something like that?
I think so. And John, Reverend Sutphin, he
Yes.
reached out to us last year. I know if you were to ask me who was the biggest proponent of this, it would be him. And I'd have to look and see where that stands. But, of course, building a new fire station, it makes sense to be in a place like that. I don't know where they're doing it in other communities, but I have heard stories of people actually using them, unfortunately.
Yeah,
There's a
Representative
need for
Pfister
that.
said that there's been 3 babies dropped off
In the state?
in the state. There's 19 in the state right now in operation, and 2 going in, 1 in Owensboro and 1 in Georgetown right now, which will give us 21.
Yeah, it's something I would happy to look into
Yeah.
and consider. I don't know what the legalities are, but it sounds like if other people are doing it, then somebody's already researched that.
Yeah, from what it sounds
Right.
like, it's just
And look at
blameless.
Right.
Just drop, if you can't handle your kid for whatever
Right.
reason,
And it's sad that we have to have
it's
something
horrible.
like that.
But
and
it's better than a kid being in a
Right.
bad home
of
situation
course,
kind of thing.
course.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the fire department does make sense. I mean, they're staffed 24/7.
Out
Oh,
of the police department, but I would think the fire department. I think either.
here you go,
one,
Mayor. This is what Representative Pfister sent me.
and I will take a look. Thank you.
Okay, it's 3 pages. Yeah.
It looks like we're a little jaggy on the video there.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
oh yeah, okay.
Do you remember the Frankfort Today that used to be on WFKY back 1490, back about 15 years ago? I used to be on that every day.
Oh, so there was somebody had this
There
title
was
before?
a Frankfort Today. I think that was the name of it. Stacy Randall was the host of it. I forgot how long it was on in the mornings. It wasn't on video, though.
Right, it was on radio.
It was on radio, and
Yeah.
I went in and did the Frankfort financial report every day. So
Oh, cool. Well, so we're inflation.
I don't think it was trademarked. Maybe it was. Maybe you got to check that out.
Well, they done forgot about it. They ain't said nothing yet. This is our 4th or 5th one of these. Parcel B and C. Everybody's got an interest in that. It's been going on for years. My question, that I asked you about the other day, the guy that won the bid, you told me, it's a state project, correct?
Well, not any longer.
Can we have the winning bidder come in and talk to you all and everybody in Frankfort about, because I know y'all discussed that before,
Right. Well, and
about
just
having him come in and tell us about it, what he's going to do?
the parcel B and parcel C, and just so everyone's clear, the parcel B, because we talk about parcel A too. There's the A, B, C.
Yeah, Eric's going to bring up parcel A.
So parcel B is the site of the old Civic Center, the big green vacant lot now. Parcel C is where the YMCA is now. That's now closed. And the developer, New Frankfort Development, owns those 2 sites. And they did bid $1,000 for that, and one of the requirements was to build the 300-space parking structure, which is now started. And the city was able to secure funds, federal and state funds, to start on that. And the city's going to allocate some funds to finish it. But that meeting that requirement, the state, because of that, the state released the restrictions on the rest of that. So the developer now owns that parcel B and parcel C. City will have some say in the design of that because
Can you whip that picture up, Eric?
it is it's a mixed use. It's supposed to be a mixed use development. That's what they proposed. But it is in the developer's hands now. Of course, we're very interested in seeing them start, because the sooner that property gets back on the tax rolls, the sooner we're going to start having more money, more revenue into our community. And that area, we did that is a TIF district now, so tax increment financing district. Any new revenues will help us pay for the new infrastructure in the area, however much that is. I know one piece of that will be the extension of Washington Street from Broadway all the way to the Miro Street. So we're talking about a new road system and part of this, which for me is
State
exciting.
road or our road? State road or city road?
And I imagine it's going to be a city road once they complete it. 2 hour standards.
Yeah, right.
2 hour standards.
Yeah.
Today's standards. And for me, that's exciting because it's going to open up the neighborhood again and increase the flow, the pedestrian flow from the existing hotel and whatever is constructed on that parcel, which right now is still the mixed use, primarily residential. Might see some retail, might see some office. That'll be up to them based on their market conditions and what they think they can make money on.
Mm-hmm. The one quick one: are the apartments going to be affordable? Or are they going to be the $1,000 and $1,200 apartments?
I guess it's all relative, right?
That would be a question I'd want to ask the guy.
I think that their intent, to my understanding, and it's been a while since we've had an updated plan on this, and it's something we can ask them to come speak to the community about. But my understanding, it would be market rate apartments, so whatever they feel like that they can charge here in Frankfort, Kentucky, which has been increasing lately. It's Frankfort is now,
Right. Especially your newer apartment areas. If you could maybe tell our audience in a brief, couple sentences, what the TIF district means. There's a lot of misconception around there about, people thinking that money's going here, money's going there, and that's not necessarily how TIF works.
right. And again, this is my hopefully in plain English explanation. But what it means is we have an agreement, and for this purpose, it's more with the county. It's an agreement with the county that we both have agreed to pledge revenues, new tax revenues. So right now, very little, if any, coming from there because it's been state-owned land. But any new, once we activate the TIF, that'll start the timer. Any new revenues, the city has pledged 75% of those new revenues back to the cost of new public infrastructure. That could be the new road. That could be the parking structure. Now, we're already
But it goes back towards the development of the land.
right.
And
So-
that's where a lot of people, I think, have a misunderstanding. They think that the city is just pulling out of the bank account, shelling money to the developer, and that's not the case.
No.
The developer creates new revenue, net new income, and they get a rebate or part of that back based on the pledgings of the city or county of that.
Right. It goes to just for infrastructure. So
Right.
it's not anything that's tied to any of their any buildings that they build.
No apartments,
No
nothing like that.
apartments. It's sidewalks, roads.
Because
parking
me and Eric
structure.
would say, we'll create a TIF district around our business and pay us to run,
Right.
improve our business.
Right.
And really what people need to understand is that from the city's standpoint, because we will have some outlay on this, that we're going to help with the construction of the parking.
But that's outside the TIF.
It's inside the TIF.
It is in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not part of the TIF district agreement, or is it?
It's inside of it, but we won't really, though. The city is, because we're building the transit center, which is going to be very helpful to the transit department and the people who use transit and the employees who work there. This is going to be transformative for them. But it also is going to include the parking structure, which is what we needed to make the whole thing happen. So it's our hope and our intent that city invest several million on this, $3, $4, $5 million, and then that enables the rest of the development, which originally was discussed at somewhere between 50 and 80 million, depending on what they complete there.
Right, and the photo we just had up, that's not. It might not be like that now.
It may not,
because that's a couple-year-old picture.
and it hasn't changed much, at least what we've been shown.
Okay.
But I will say that the developer, though, they do have an incentive, and that is if they want to make money, they have no restrictions now. So
Right.
that is the incentive, is now you have an opportunity to make money on this development, and the city is doing their fair share. The state, they did their fair share. Now it's time.
If he
It's time
drags,
for them to pony up.
yeah, if he drags his feet, what happens?
Well, they're losing its opportunity cost.
I mean, is he on this forever?
They own it now.
So got the most valuable piece of property in Frankfort for $1,000. So I could have bid $1,050. Had the city created TIF district pay me back for
they
everything.
had restrictions on it, and I wasn't around then.
I know.
So
I'm not saying you
say
were.
that. I was
There's
not
a lot of
around.
confusion about how a property valued that high got only one bid and only for $1,000.
Back then, Craig, it was with the stipulation that you would also build a 300-space parking garage, which back then may have cost $6-7 million. So
he ain't building it now, though, right?
but
Y'all
they
are.
didn't have no. But they found a way, and that not saying they found a way, but somebody found a way.
The winning bidder from Harlan, he's not building the parking garage.
Correct.
Right, and
taxpayers are.
that's where when I talk to people, that's what they get aggravated about. Like, he was supposed to build that, but somehow the city miraculously found state funding to make that happen.
Well, mostly federal.
Yes,
Or federal.
That's the stuff from Andy Barr. That's $7 million, right? Something like that.
Yes, and Mike McConnell and
Yeah.
the transportation
Yeah,
cabinet
a lot.
at the time.
Y'all did that
I wasn't.
presentation down there. Yeah,
Right. Yeah, and that was
that was good.
And as from a city standpoint, when I came into office, that was already in the works.
Correct.
And it appeared that we were going to get those funds, and of course I asked those questions. I asked a million questions on, can we get out of this, and do we want to get out of this? What are the ramifications? Do we may want this, and it kept coming back to, Mayor, you don't get grants from. You don't get federal grants like this very often, and here's an opportunity where they're going to take most of the cost. And if we do this if the city steps up to do this public infrastructure, it enables the rest of that to be developed. If we don't do it, and we turn down the grant, I don't know what happens to future grants.
Right, yeah, you got to
But
take
I was
it.
told it's a bad thing if you turn down federal
Yeah,
money.
got to take it.
It's kind of like a budget, use it or lose it, right?
You're a bad risk at that point, and they because a lot of people did go to bat for this over for that money, and if we were to turn it down, but then also it is okay. What happens to that land then?
That's going to be my next
Revert
question.
back to the state. If it reverts back to the state, then do we even get a chance to get that property out of state's hands anytime soon? We don't. It's a lot of unknowns.
Right.
But we had a known. We do this, and we know that.
If we get that,
Because the way it looks right now, it looks like that we as a city have done the legwork to get federal grant money to build an expensive structure on a piece of property that the city doesn't own.
We own
That's
the
in
property.
private, so we do own it.
We own where the transit center and the parking structure. The owner of the developer deeded that to the city.
Okay.
So we
See,
do
that's
own-
information I don't think everybody
Right,
knows.
that is the city's property. We wouldn't do it otherwise, unless it was the state or something. But no, we wouldn't do it with a private developer. But no, that is the city's land. So let's clear that up if anybody's. And that's one of those where, is Frankfort business friendly? I'd say from that standpoint,
getting
we're
better.
pretty darn business friendly.
yeah, we're getting better because there's
Yeah,
a lot
'cause
of action going on downtown.
We stepped up and did what we had to do to make that happen. And I do think that, when I was coming into office, that was the transformative project. And that was, if we did that one thing, it could change the course of Frankfort, particularly downtown. But if Now there's other things now I think that are going to be equally
Right.
as big, but so I think we did a very business friendly thing there, in that we helped to see that there's no excuses now.
I just
It
want
has
to.
to-
I
Well,
want to see the guy in front of the city commission personally. Just me. I want to see him talk to you all, answer y'all's questions, and because
He
we don't know
deserves
what
to be
he's going to
drilled.
do, and we don't know what he's going to do.
Right. He deserves to go through the firing squad, so to speak.
And there's a history. We know that he can build buildings. They did Mayo Underwood. They did.
I just don't want to
300
wait
building.
20
They did
years
the
to get it.
KSU dorm.
Yeah.
We know that they can build.
No, the company can. Is he part of that company that built the dorms in the Mayo Underwood building?
Well, the developer who's I would call it the operating manager, who's not the owner of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Owner of the property and the operating manager are two different
Okay.
people.
Okay. On a more positive note, something that's come up is Parcel A with some riverfront development. This is something that Craig and I have talked about
Since I had Botox.
since since the 90s. I mean, we've got this gorgeous resource in the river, and why we haven't invested money there, because one thing that all boat owners have is expendable cash. You don't buy a big old boat like Pat Hancock, I don't know, whatever he had, like a 70-foot
Cruiser.
house.
Giant
Well, I'm
cruiser.
thinking, yeah.
It was a 3-level cruiser, yeah.
So, you don't have that kind of money and not have a little bit of money to spend on top of it. So can you tell us a little bit about Parcel A and what's going on down there?
Well, let me backing up a little. I think our goal is we had this riverfront development plan that was created in 2009 that we invested some funds in, and there was a committee, and got the conversation started again about how do we utilize the river and how do we take advantage of it. And then the 2018 downtown master plan also addressed the river and the parks that we do have over there, Riverview Park and the Broadway Bridge. And so I'm very keen on seeing our riverfront developed. You go to any other city, a lot of cities would love to have the riverfront that we have in an S shape, snaking through our downtown.
Owensboro's done a lot with theirs.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
And then we talk about Owensboro a lot, Paducah, and because they have, it's easy to go. We could point to a successful
Right.
one right there here in Kentucky, or Louisville's water park as well, Waterfront Park in Louisville. One of the things we were interested in is getting more control over the land, over those strategic properties, and we've been making some efforts to, and the state owned Parcel A, which is where the Wilkinson and Broadway meet right there at the Broadway Bridge, Riverview Park there, but the city leased it from them. But we were interested in taking ownership of that, as well as other properties throughout the city that the state owns. But that was one that we wanted to get secured in case, because in the downtown master plan, that is a site that is identified as a key
Right.
strategic area to locate new facilities.
Well, since they tore down the Civic Center, we need to get something to make that money back that brought in. So, yeah, keep going after
I would
it.
agree with that.
Keep going after it. Yeah.
So that was so that's something we just Monday night's meeting we voted to accept that. So I don't think everything's been filed or
But
in
it's
an open
semi-breaking news.
right.
Yeah.
Semi.
Yeah.
But it's but that's I think that's but we are interested in and we're also interested in other parts of that. We've already made an announcement a couple weeks ago that we'd be entering into a contract to purchase another piece of riverfront land. So
That's the one we talked about the other day.
I think so.
Okay.
But that is something that just know that we want to see that developed in a way that is that we can use as residents, because we need to we need to have more activities on our riverfront. And then also that's a major tourism corridor with Buffalo Trace just a mile
Right.
from downtown.
Well, and that's where a lot of the business friendly stuff comes into play. When governments get out of the way of developers and stuff, we got several people in town who do a lot of development and land buying, and the three that I know, that they're not going to put their name on something that's trashy. And that's kind of like where you just get them through the system and able to start to do business, and to sit back and collect the money. Because when they start making money, Frankfort will start making money. and we have zero investment in it. And sometimes the process to get to the point where you can build, or to the point where you can open your business, license fees, inspections.
We shouldn't even charge for those.
They should be free. Yeah,
Free.
I agree. But that that's a different point altogether. If we could just get those pieces of paper and those documents signed off and into people's hands much faster, because we have cities, pretty close to us that with one told Craig they could have him open in 2 days.
Danville. Jody Lassiter.
Every piece of paper, every inspection, everything. 2 days,
and
you're ready
help
to
me find a location and make sure as we're going along.
Right.
This is what really bothered me. He said, we'll hold your hand the whole process, during your whole build out. When Scott and I built out our restaurant, one politician stopped by to check on us. She was just coming by to take some pictures. Nobody else came by to check on us. And I know every one of the elected officials at that time. But nobody stopped and said, hey, how can we make you get open faster?
And when you hear people talk about not friendly, not business friendly, to be brutally honest, that's what they're talking about. It's the process of getting through the bureaucracy. And I think that's something, not just the city, but the county too. I mean, it's not just pile on you day.
We're not piling on Layne.
Somebody in position of authority and power should start that ball rolling and make sure that it becomes a smooth process.
No, I don't disagree that it needs to be a smooth process. And one of the things I was talking about, business friendly, we're talking about major big things.
Like going on downtown right now.
Right, we're doing big things that are going to set the stage for lots of other things to happen, transformative things.
The stuff 2 and 3 years down the road.
Right, but and these are things we had to get our arms around right away, because if we don't seize these opportunities now, we just have to now. Right now, Frankfort's, I think, at a pivotal point, and if we don't have the right mindset and the right focus to stay on top of this, our success isn't guaranteed. We need to make sure that we stay on this. But what you're talking about, these details, that now we're going through all of our processes with a fine-tooth comb and seeing where can we squeeze out inefficiencies, what can we make easier, what are other cities doing, and then also that's the process side of it, but then also having a mindset that we are in the service business, and we want to find ways to, if we have to say no on something, how do we help you get to the next best outcome?
You remember the dig meeting? Remember the dig meeting?
Oh yeah, I was.
What some of those guys were saying, the comments that Rodney read off, it's pretty eye opening. And the 3 meetings prior to that were really eye opening on stuff that the builders and the developers had to deal with, and the length of time it was taking. That's what Erica's referencing. That's got to be done faster.
And we're trying to streamline things, and it's not. I've heard it from other mayors too. I think in most communities you hear something to this effect, but it doesn't mean that it's not true, right? I know that.
And we don't have to be like other communities. Right. We can be above other communities.
Right. And I think that there are things that we are working on now to streamline, to professionalize, not that we're not, but more professionalize, and then also that mindset that we are in. We're in the client side. You're in the restaurant business. I have clients. I have a private business, and it's something we obsess over. The client experience. If somebody calls in and doesn't, and if it goes to voicemail, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, as a business owner,
always and we do a good job at City Hall in terms of answering the calls and finding out what they need and finding the answers. But we need to, on the licensing side, there are things we could streamline or make easier or do online.
Yeah, just the whole process. The unfortunate part is that people who are inside of government needs to talk to people outside of government. If you wanted to start a business you personally, a new business in Frankfort, you'd probably be able to get it done in 3 days. And that's not a fair comparison for to someone like me who does not have the one-on-one working relationships and the professional political or whatever you want to call it relationships with these people that are going to work, on your behalf quicker. It's average Joe who has the hard time.
Yeah, I had the phone numbers if we had 17 people to deal with, I had the phone numbers to 16 of them, and it still took us a long time.
It took us about 6 months to get a business license.
Yeah.
Delivered.
Business license?
Yes, a business license.
Well, and I could say, what depends on the type of business. But if you are like my business, it was, I paid $60 and I had my LLC set up in no time.
Right. But I had to go through a bunch of inspections.
But if you're a restaurant and you have inspections, then you're getting into sometimes county health inspectors, sometimes some businesses have a state inspector if they're
we had a bunch of
larger
those
in size. So some of these aren't. When we do ask the questions, sometimes we find, look, that's not a city issue, or sometimes we do it. Sometimes it really is a life safety issue, and we can't do anything about it.
Right.
And people need to understand that as well. But when we can,
every delay is not a
it's just if
process delay.
Yeah, it's just if you would tell the business owner, hey, don't wait 3 weeks and say, hey, dude, we can't do that because of some safety issue or some other law or something.
Right.
Tell them the next day. But,
Understood.
we can beat that dead horse for 20
that is something obviously we're aware of, and we have the right people in place to
it's getting better. Yeah.
Get that sorted out. And things don't happen overnight.
And that's true. And like these big projects you're working on that are ultimately going to lay down a great foundation for Frankfort and Franklin County, and bring in lots of opportunity for revenue. Those are great, but those are like 2-3 year projects. If we run all of our businesses out of town or they stop trying to work in Frankfort, then we've invested 2 or 3 years for naught. And I think it's important to work now on that business friendly, truly not just use it as a catchphrase, but truly be a business friendly place, so that we can start doing the infill of properties that we have, which is always, you always hear people talk about it. You don't see a whole lot of it happening.
You do now
because well, it is.
And I really think that now, Frankfort, I think, is being seen as investment worthy now, and there's a lot of interest, particularly in the downtown.
There's a lot of projects going on.
A lot of projects going on. And of course, we have to improve the business-friendly environment, but
got to improve them roads.
I think people are seeing that you can make money in Frankfort,
Yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of time. Once we get some of these projects online, the boutique hotels,
that's going to be good.
Airbnbs, there's more. About 80 units that will be online in the next
pretty
year
soon
or two.
Yeah,
when that happens. We see new businesses opening up downtown. You're going to see more, and we're going to hit that tipping point. And I wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that.
But we're just trying to get the word out to everybody about what's going on. Not a lot of people know all those office buildings are getting turned into Airbnbs or condos or something like that, and they're going to be nice.
Simon Furniture Warehouse. That's
Sire
going to
building.
be 40, 45 rooms, and I don't know if you've seen what they're doing there, but
they were part of the presenters.
Built that whole in the windows that are going in there. Marcus Furniture Building.
Sire Building.
Thank you, former mayor and former commissioner John Sauer. Thank you for that. The Ben Hardin Building on the corner of Wapping and Maine, and it goes on, and then there's
that's the Bourbon Library, right?
Yes,
and then Chad Peach, and he's doing the one at the on the old state insurance building.
Yep,
he's turning those in.
Apartments.
So there's a lot.
And if we get the on the parcel B with new units going over there, let's say 100 new units go over there with 150 new people. What does that do to our downtown on a Monday or a Tuesday night? Because I do think if you come down on the Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, now you're seeing many more people than I moved back about 20 years ago, and because I grew up here. If anybody out there doesn't know my story, I grew up here in Frankfort. but I was gone all through my 20s, and then I moved back about 20 years ago, and there's much more activity now than there ever has been.
Right, because there was when in my 20s and 30s, Frankfort was booming, and I'm always harping on
In your
sports.
20s or 30s, not
In my 20s or 30s, I'm 64, yeah. But I'm always harping on sports tourism. I'm harping on small victories. We got these big victories that are coming down the road, but there's little things that we can do that will show progress going on in town. Simple stuff that wouldn't cost a lot of money, more generally than time. But we've got on the sports tourism, we've got the facilities. They're just not being utilized as much as they should be. So that goes back to my thing that we've talked about a couple of times of hiring somebody to recruit those events, or why we aren't doing it now. Because every time you go to Capitol View and those 4 ball fields are empty, those soccer fields are empty,
Lost opportunity.
Yeah, because I know it brings business to my restaurant. So if it's bringing business to Da Vinci's, it's bringing business to all the downtown things too, when they're utilized. So that's why I wish you all would hire somebody to recruit sports events, art events, music events, and
just anything that you can put in the facilities that are ready to go, because that's instant revenue. Lakeview Park is a good example. It's ready to go. We can hold softball tournaments. Maybe not to the level we would like to see one day, but when people come, they're hungry. They may need to stay.
With all those new hotel rooms.
The lodging will be there, we hope.
Yeah. And in Lakeview Park, Eric, they're supposed to have turfed infields. One of the magistrates told me supposed to have turfed infields and new lights on all 4 fields.
Nice.
By the end of this year. So we'll see if that comes true or not, but that's what I was told.
And that's the thing that I've talked about with several people is there's always controversy of who owns what, and I don't want to get into that rabbit hole, but it doesn't matter, if it is a county property that we're trying to get people to get into. You as the city own almost all the restaurants. You own all the hotel. Own as in it's where you collect. It's in your tax jurisdiction. So people coming out for places like that benefits the city much more than it does the county. There's fruit to be had there, and those little victories will help.
But we need to, one thing that people will compare it to E-Town, or they'll bring
you got to start somewhere. That's the thing. Everybody wants to tie their name to a big project in Frankfort.
But they do that. They get a restaurant tax down there, and that helps fund that park down there. And we don't get that.
Which came first?
We don't get that though. But that's how the
restaurant tax. I'm a restaurant, so I don't want my food prices to go up. But Eric's good point. What comes first, the tourists, or the customers? So are the citizens of Frankfort? I know 95% of our customers are locals, so they would be paying that restaurant tax. But then the restaurants down there by Buffalo Trace, maybe they're getting more visitors, tourists, than they are locals. I don't know. So that would be what comes first.
Well, my point on that in E-Town. Did they start the tax first, or did they build the facilities first?
I can't answer that.
I know, don't know, but it's consideration.
Mark Kopp knows.
But it is different. We don't get the same revenue that another city would get on those visitors.
We're not attracting people. We can't even keep our streets mowed. No. I mean, if we start attracting people in and getting that revenue in, then we add that restaurant tax. We can do it at a smaller increment.
Well, we can't add the restaurant tax, first of all. That's what I'm saying. We can't add it.
You're not allowed at all.
No, we are not allowed to add it.
Then I'm misinformed on that.
Is it our city classification or something?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
we were a second-class city when they changed it over to home rule, and they allowed the ones that were Frankfort size. We weren't grandfathered in.
I thought we were.
No, we're not allowed to do it.
Oh, okay.
So we're
Well,
not. That's
dead
what I'm
point.
saying.
Dead point.
We're not even allowed to do it.
Yeah,
I'm
so
not saying we're. So
move
you're
on.
safe here. You're safe.
Okay,
in
so-
No,
Frankfort right
I'm
now.
safe
So,
anyway.
so restaurant tax can't come, is what you're telling.
No, not right now.
Okay, moving on.
Unless the General Assembly does something.
Back a few years ago, I guess the city pledged $2.5 million to the Y.
Yes.
Where can you tell us where we're at on that now?
Well, it was. I think that was a commission prior to ours. The commission prior, and I have to go back in time here and remember. But I'm not. It was one of the first things that our commission took up and considered a resolution, but I don't think we ever voted on it. And then what happened was when we pivoted to look at the Exum Center, and I still. I think the YMCA downtown would be a great idea. I think it would help the new development down there. And I just think that from a central location, I like the idea of some type of facility downtown that's indoor, wellness center with exercise equipment, maybe, I don't know how big of a pool, but some type of pool. But then with the Exum Center being where it is, it's still centrally located. It is... it's over 100,000 square feet, whereas the Y that we had was 30,000 square feet. So there's ample space at the Exum Center. It has a pool, has a couple of gymnasiums. So when we started looking at that, and KSU was receptive, and leadership was receptive, and the governor he was receptive to the idea as well. That's when we started exploring that. We pledged instead $1 million toward that facility.
Right.
And set aside the $2.5 million. That's not in play anymore right now. It's
And
$1
it'll
million.
tie us with KSU. Finally, we're doing something with KSU to benefit both of us.
Right. If there's a lot of on a lot of different levels that it seems like a good idea, in that they have the space, they have a building, we have a need, they have a need, because we could utilize our resources and other resources to help like secure that building and rehab it and make it a state-of-the-art facility. But what you're talking about, though, it would bring people to KSU at an early age.
Right.
And then a generation from now, you would have people that would be accustomed to going on campus.
Yeah, we played at Bell. When I was little, we lived up on Marlowe Court, and we would go over there when the basketball team was playing. And we'd sit up in stands while they were practicing, and when they went into Shire, they let us shoot. We're 8 years old, letting us shoot basketball, and then the players would come out and play around with us and lift us up and let us dunk, and things like that. So that was pretty cool, but you don't see that today.
No, well, and to that, we're still exploring that, whether or not it makes sense and whether or not KSU may need that entire facility if they get enrollment up to a level that if they were to get the enrollment up there, like Dr. Capo, he's pretty optimistic about what he's going to do, and perhaps they need that building. Maybe they need it for classroom space, but we know for sure that we in the short term we need at least the pool, and there's an assessment that has been done. They're figuring out what it's not as bad as I think we originally feared, but they're estimating what that would cost to get that back online. We don't have that, or at least as of today, I haven't seen a number yet what that would be. But that's our short-term goal. We get that pool up and running for our community use. Still explore whether or not to put the entire YMCA, and I'm saying YMCA because I like the idea of a YMCA because operationally they can run it, but just a facility, indoor facility. But I'm also, when I say I'm keeping in mind the possibility of a downtown if for some reason it can't work at Axel.
Okay. Pilot, that was great news. Go from a informational thing down to the payment in lieu of taxes.
Yes. So this, and then we call it the pilot. I think that the state had another name for it, and it wasn't technically a pilot, but for all intents and purposes, it was an amount that the state would give to the city every year for police and fire, public safety protection, because they have a lot of important buildings in our city that aren't taxed, and we are responsible for. If something were to happen, a fire, emergency, we're responsible for
Well,
that.
just like the potential gunplay
Exactly.
at the KYTC building the other day.
Exactly.
I mean, every cop in town was down there, I think.
And we were the first, I think, the first in at least one of the buildings. Our people were first inside.
Yeah.
And that was not lost on the administration either. I think that's they recognize that. But it is something that Hank Hancock back in the 70s helped us get a contribution.
Julian Carroll.
And Julian Carroll was the governor. Hank Hancock was representative. They got that worked out, and it stayed at about, I think it was $150,000 initially. It stayed at $150,000 until the late 90s, and then it went to $195,000. So they didn't quite hit $200,000, but we were working with a lot of people on Capitol Hill, and they saw fit to increase it to $846,000,
and that's every year, correct?
Well, that's my understanding is that that's the new baseline, and
That's massive. That's a huge increase.
It is, yeah.
$650,000.
There is a lot of expense in emergency public work services for that. Roads, everything that comes with that population that you can't tax.
Back then, $150,000 may have bought you a fire truck, and today it wouldn't get you 2 tires on a fire truck.
Right.
And anybody that, if you explain it that way, it's pretty. I think anybody would see that it's pretty.
And there's a year wait on them now, isn't there?
I think so.
Depending on the brand, yeah. I remember the last.
You were a fireman, weren't you, Eric?
The last one I was involved in purchasing was when I was a volunteer fire department in Greenup. Population 1,200. It was $176,000 for.
Oh, these. I bet these are $600,000.
No. It wasn't. It would be one of the small pumper tankers that we have in the county now. So if you look at some of those, like the Seagraves aerial that they have in Station 1, you're looking at $1.5 million.
Holy crap!
Well, by the time you equip it with air packs,
they're beautiful trucks.
Yeah, they're not cheap. And like you said, it's a year wait. People don't realize people away from that don't realize how much the city spends to buy and maintain that. There's a lot of money there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very happy to be the capital. And I reinforce that anytime I can say it. When look, we are thankful and grateful to be the capital. We have some expenses. And what that money that for the pilot, it will be earmarked toward the public safety in general. But it is going to help our budget overall because we were taking money from other things.
It's going to free up money
so,
for something else.
Well, it'd be used kind of like you would, I would imagine at least, like you would property tax, because that's essentially what it is. In a way, I guess.
And based on my math, and that increase of $650,000 is the equivalent of adding about $33 million in payroll. So think about that. That's like landing
a big factory.
330 people at $100,000 a year.
Yeah,
It's a big deal. Yeah. So we thank the administration and everyone who worked on that.
Well, there was more.
That was
there. Yeah, there was the $2.7 million total.
Oh, for Franklin County.
Yeah, 276 went to the tourist and the Franklin County Tourist and Convention Commission. How's that money get spent? Who does somebody watch over that money?
Well, it'd be their board, and
they got a board.
There's a board, an executive director who probably makes recommendations to the board.
Mm-hmm.
I go to some of those meetings, and along with the judge.
That's a lot of money.
We appoint.
So they should be bringing in stuff into Frankfort, right? You would think.
Though with that investment, and if they use it wisely, yes, hopefully make some transformational investments in advertising but that was ARPA money. Some of those announcements that they made on the same day as the pilot. Now the day that they announced the pilot, that was the day of the announcement. But some of those they announced last year. It was ARPA funds that a lot of the nonprofits applied for. And thankfully we had a
And
lot,
got them. Yeah,
a lot
the
of people in the city.
150,000 went to East Frankfort Park. And I know y'all are working hard to build that back up to its glory. Again, living on Marlowe Court. 1 million kids played down there. We all grew up at East Frankfort Park.
East Frankfort Park, and that speaks to the different, the city is committed to, we're making big investments in our parks too. We've allocated funds, revenue for a bond to do that, to implement our Parks Master Plan. That was one of the first things we did also was adopt the Parks Master Plan. East Frankfort Park, well, Dolly Graham Park we did first because it was already in progress, finished the splash pad and the playground there.
My grandkids go to the splash pad.
And those types of things, one of our viewers tonight, it goes to...
Are people commenting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Those are quality of life things for people who live in Frankfort. You get happier people. You get quality of life. And that helps attract people. Do I have something to do with my kids? That's always been a problem in Frankfort. And the difficulty with where we're at, I'm going to take out a bunch of people in this comment. The problem with where we're at is state payroll typically keeps average salary in Frankfort kind of artificially low. They've been a lot better lately with some raises and stuff like that, and that's no fault of the city or county. But with those kind of things going on, it's hard to fund a child facility. Everybody talks about Lexington. We got, Monkey Joe's, and we got this, and they got this and that. But the average, the mean salary in Frankfort or in Lexington is much, much higher. Parents can afford to spend more money on kid activities. You can't keep businesses open at $20, $20 a kid a day, and we don't have the population. So those little things like parks go a long way for that.
And what we're seeing, we're gonna have to make some hard decisions because we can't borrow an infinite amount of money or bond an infinite amount to do our parks, but we do need to but we also can't wait 10 years to do a little bit every year. We need to make a big investment now and do something that's going to make an impact. And some of these things, though, they're not super exciting things. They're like bathrooms and they're lighting and security.
They're just the necessities, right?
But we have to have those.
Well, Lakeview Park, county park, but these little girl softball tournaments, the lady that runs it is partners with the Transylvania girls softball coach, women's softball coach, and she's out of Jessamine County, he's out of Lexington. They prefer to hold their tournaments here. If we can get if the county does come through and light the fields and put the turf on the infield, I wish they'd turf the whole thing. Just like I wish we'd turf all our soccer fields and all that stuff too. She said we could hold between 60 and 80 team tournaments. That's 600 to 800 kids, and then add 3 more, mom, dad, and a brother or sister. You're talking 3,000 people hitting this town in one weekend, filling up every hotel we got, every restaurant we got, buying gas, buying food, whatever.
See, that's where you want to encourage.
That's why we got to have that person to recruit these kind of events.
And we'll make a note of that because is it a city position or is it a tourist? It's something we'd have to.
I would think the tourist commission would do it.
We'll have to. That's something we'll have to think about. But
because that makes those park investments that we make that benefit our citizens, as much as anything, they start generating revenue. It's a small victory, and every time that a little victory comes along and they hear Mayor Wilkerson being tied to all these, it keeps your name fresh in everybody's head. They know who made these little wins.
That's what we want to. It's the small victories. It creates momentum.
The sees government is doing something,
and it creates more momentum.
Right,
and I think that's where progress. We are, and that's where I am. I don't know that. And
you always got
change
some
the
people
mindset with everybody, and it's not just. We have to change the mindset of Frankfort in general, and that's sometimes hard to do. But I think we're
very much
that.
is.
Eric
very
and I
much.
are trying,
and we're doing that with the projects that we're working on. And I know sometimes it feels like there's I don't know if you just read the news and you might think nothing, but if you really look at what's being done, we're being very productive and we're checking off There's a plan that we're working,
Good point.
and we're focused on getting these things.
That leads to a good point.
Before you get there, I just
Okay.
want to make note that we are 50 minutes in,
Okay.
and
Okay.
in
It
respect to
makes
his
a
time.
good point about, the letting everybody know. I watched the last fiscal court meeting, and the magistrate for District 3, I see the county's going to hold a movie night or something at Lakeview. She said she didn't even know about it. And then the District 6 and District 5 magistrates said they weren't aware of things going on. District 5 is my magistrate, and he said that maybe he's not studying enough to see what's going on. But what that led me to think is from discussions me and you, Penny, and Kyle, and Patricia have had, that maybe there's not enough sharing of information out to the public. And then when it went to the fiscal court, and even half their members didn't know events going on at Lakeview Park, there's communication issues.
Well, I can't speak to the county in fiscal court, but I know that's one of the biggest. It's one of our areas of strategic focus, and it's one of our priorities is telling Frankfort's story, and part of that is we're telling the good news and sharing the. Right. We own that land down where we're building the parking structure and clearing up any misconceptions.
I didn't know that till today.
But then also it is talking about these major projects that are happening, but it's also the simple things like a newsletter that happens periodically. I go to other cities and I sign up for their newsletters. I want to see what they're putting out. And one of the things we've considered, and we actually had a vote on it, we need to probably reconsider it again, is hiring I don't know what you want to call it, public information officer, strategic communications consultant, maybe. But I think it's a position that we really need to help us tell, it's messaging, but it's also communicating with the public on what's going on.
Yeah, we need that desperately.
A PR person.
Yeah. It's
moving quickly now.
Also, so there's a couple things.
24 local organizations got $100,000 apiece. That's great news for Simon House, et cetera, Humane Society, all those. That's a big bump for them, correct?
It should be. It sounds like a lot. For some of those, it was a big chunk of money.
Especially Simon House right now.
A lot of those they got last year. A lot of those funds were received last year. It's just it wasn't announced until that day.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because I just heard about it a few days ago. Public safety. Chief Bowman said we're down a dozen officers at the last city commission meeting, and there's a proposed $7,500 or greater cash incentive to lure police to come work in our town. Is that correct?
That's I think we approved it Monday night at 8,000. I forgot that there was a staggered. Yeah, they get a certain amount up front and then a certain amount after year one, a certain amount after year two. But yes, we approved that. That's one of the challenges is we have, I think, 5 new people in academy right now, and I think I'll swear them in October. But they're in academy right now.
And will anybody retire before then?
I swear in a couple, 1 or 2 in September, and then I think 5 in October. So we know what's coming down the pipe, but that doesn't take into account we have any new retirements or any transfers out. So one of the things we're working to address the people that are already here is we've gone a long way in increasing the pay to make it more competitive both on police and fire. So we're trying to get that up where it's not as attractive. You want to stay in Frankfort for those particularly that want to stay here. We want them to stay, and we've increased their pay to make it more competitive, and we've gone a long way there. And then secondly, on the lateral transfers, and that's just somebody who's coming in who's already trained, and they could start from day one. We're going to give them a bonus to do so, and try to not necessarily take people from other departments. I hate to think of it that way, but there could be people that are retired, or there could be people that could start right now, and because we need them now. But public safety is one of my priorities because we could do all these big projects and you can do all these things. But if there's a perception, even if it's just a perception that it's not safe or you feel that it takes a long time to get that.
It does.
So it's a positive step.
It absolutely is. And, law enforcement is always near and dear to my heart. But yeah, bring in those trained people in, because now they have to be trained to a certain level before you can even allow them to get on the street. One, it becomes a huge liability. And when they pay for people to go through the academy, most departments, they have like 3 years, a 3-year contract before they can even leave the department without a fee. So if Frankfort wanted to recruit people, you have to get them outside of that, so you don't have to pay a fee, so to speak, to bring them in. But yeah, I would offer them a bonus. Say, hey, there's a $5,000 training bonus.
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing
That's
8,000. I mean, you have to stay for 3 to get the full 8.
And that's a great idea. And we don't have to match salary with Lexington. I mean, I guess depending on your perspective, you may.
But our cost of living.
Our cost of living is cheaper. Our, the stress level of getting from A to B is a whole lot less.
And Frankfort, we have we're an active city. We if you're a police officer here, you work on a lot of different things, but it's not Lexington or Louisville level.
Yeah, we're safe.
Much safer, yeah.
And I think it's a great place a great community to work in, and being a state capital too. I think there's other advantages there. You have other agencies here that you can that show up
Right.
when there's an emergency.
Okay. Quickly, Home Street. I read that it's so darn bumpy it'll knock your fillings out of your teeth. I've done a couple of videos with it riding down the road, and but there's some good news on that also.
Well, a couple of pieces on this one, because Home Street is one of those areas I think that when as the city grows, that Home Street is a natural place for it to grow because of its location, and it's a major thoroughfare in and out of town. It's one of the places, I'm driving it all the time based on where I live. And of course, there's that part between downtown and Mayor that is the state has they've let the contract to resurface that.
The HG Maze.
Yeah, and that should be done by November or Thanksgiving. And now it's not going to be a full, a deep dig like Second Street was. Second Street, we rebuilt that whole thing and repaved it. But Home Street's going to be at least a resurfacing, so you're not going to have that bumpiness. And then, secondly, we've started the process with the public input to do the redesign of Home Street all the way out to the Thornhill bypass, and that's a $600,000-$700,000 project to at least give us the plans to. This is what it'll. Just like with Second Street, we had plans first. Then once we had the plans, then we could go for the next big money.
That was the thing at Memorial Church, wasn't it?
Yes.
Memorial Baptist Church. Was it a good turnout?
It was a great turnout.
Good.
But this plan will enable us to go after the bigger grant to really do that. So that's when you'll see the big.
Okay.
And that would be a multi-year project too.
The 4 or 5 years, what Chuck Knowles said.
Based on the size of it and how long Second Street took.
I would say based on Second Street.
Chuck detailed it out pretty well in the paper.
Yeah.
It's Second Street,
It's going to be some time.
Yeah.
It also had a lot of underground utility challenges too that I don't think are as big on Home Street. I could be wrong.
So we're hoping we do that. And if we make the public investments, private investment should follow.
Okay. Let's do paddocks.
You want to do paddocks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Then I'll
whip that picture up.
I'll end on the Buffalo one.
Yeah.
Because I do want to.
While he's bringing that picture up, planning and zoning. I saw today that you all had your second read, the big one, that's the shopping center, the whole thing. There you go.
Yes,
planning and zoning, you're going down to 9 members.
We're gonna take it from 11 to 9, and in the hopes that it will streamline. It should make the meetings shorter.
Will there be additional training? Because like you wouldn't want me on there because I'm going to say, heck yeah, build it because I don't know any better.
Well, the state has I think 8 hours for every. I forgot how. Don't quote me on that, but the state has members of planning and zoning and the board of zoning adjustments are required to take a certain amount of training every year, or over a 2-year period. They're required to do that. Now, that's something that we are looking into, whether or not we should or could add more requirements to that, make it more stringent. So at the very least, though, we need to make sure that we're doing the training we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we need to get some builders and developers on the board, right? I mean, instead of just putting somebody like me on there who doesn't,
People who I think, from my standpoint, here's what it's
I'm
people
speaking
who are
about
objective,
dig members.
people who can who understand the rules and regulations and can make objective decisions based on what it says in the code. And I think, there'll be people on there, once you put them on, I'm sure people will think they're pro-growth or anti-growth, and sometimes you don't know until they vote. But I just want people that are going to make an informed decision, that have a base understanding of the rules, regulations, and policies and the statutes and all those. They're going to put the time in to learn that stuff, and hopefully they already know a lot of it.
Right, yeah.
And then secondly, if they can make a decision on a Thursday night, if they have enough information to make a decision, then they make the decision, whether it's, people are going to like it or not. Now, if they need more time and they need to table it, that I understand that too, and I get it. But if you can make a decision, I would say.
Are there rules? Don't mean to interrupt. We're trying to stay on your timeline. Are there rules if you miss X amount of meetings, you're off?
They're not in there right now, no.
Okay.
But there is it could mean that you won't get reappointed again, maybe.
Right.
If you really want to be on there. But that's a board. The planning and zoning, I think I heard somebody bring it up, I forgot where, they missed the quorum, but I don't think that planning and zoning has missed the quorum.
I don't remember them either missing.
Or hasn't had a quorum since I've been mayor 2.5. I can't remember. Somebody's probably going to comment and correct me, but I can't remember planning and zoning not having a quorum. One of the things we did consider is increasing the frequency of the meetings, but I think we determined that might be too just maybe unnecessary. But that if they need to have a special meeting, if there's a special,
who would
project,
call that?
That'd be the chair. Right now, Bill May.
Because I know in the dig presentations that there were time delays that the builders that are doing all the projects downtown mentioned, and that's why I was wondering if they held their meetings every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, at least turn it around a little bit faster. But that's up to them.
And right now, that's up to them. We're leaving that frequency the same, but we wanted to see. And I say we had talked about it. That Judge Mueller, myself, we talked to our planning and zoning staff and got their thoughts, and we felt like 11 to 9 was it's a tweak, but it doesn't put us down, because it had been considered moving it down to 7, reducing it to 7. But then we did worry about quorum, and we didn't want to create a situation where we were not having a quorum.
Well, it gives you a little less depth of knowledge potential too.
In 11 to 9, we hope to get the same results and just maybe shorten the meeting some.
Okay, $18 million surplus. What's our rainy day fund, and then what's above the rainy day fund? Just so people know, because y'all mentioned it in the commission meeting. So
this is good. So our minimum fund balance that we've agreed to have right now is that we've agreed to set aside, and it's based on the number of months of expenses, is $13 million. So if we have $18 million in our rainy day fund, $13 million, we've said that's the minimum. We don't want to go below that. That's for emergencies, catastrophes. The other $5 million, the difference, now 3.8 of that has been set aside for other things. $1 million for the Exum. Now, whether or not we use that or not, we'll see. But $1 million of that, we've already kind of committed that. And then the 2.8 of that, going into this calendar year, we've set aside for capital expenditures. There's a project on Main Street near the McClure building that we've set aside $800,000 in case we need to do that. We bought a lot of equipment with the other $2 million. So there's a lot of things that we needed to buy major pieces of equipment. There's 5 police cruisers in that. There's a new side loader to help our waste management. That was one of the reasons we had to suspend the yard waste pickup for a while. So what I'm getting to is 3.8 of that is kind of off the table, I would say. But then there's 1.1 or so that 1.2.
You touched on the solid bulk waste collection. We'll hit that real quick, and then we'll.
Well, you never actually talked about the paddocks. I pulled up the picture, and you never actually.
Okay.
We're pretty much back to normal, except now on the yard waste and the bulk waste. It's just we're now asking to give us a heads up,
Okay.
so that we can allocate and make sure that we have the proper resources going out during the day, and because it's hard to take away a service, even if it's temporary.
Right.
Right.
Well, there was a big uproar. I saw that.
That's what people will remember. They won't remember things like this big project here.
Right.
Yeah, I would say I don't think this is as well known in Frankfort as I thought it was.
I didn't know about 3 weeks ago.
So this is, and a lot of people are calling it the paddocks just because that was the original. It's parcel over. It's not a parcel. It's a big piece of land. Remember where the old.
It's about 90 acres.
It was where the haunted house used to be.
Right.
Back and had the JC's haunted house used to be back there. But it was owned by the same gentleman for 40 years, and it was zoned commercial, and he finally put all the pieces together. One of the issues was access to that area. Well, the state had also was also looking at between the interstate and US 60, easing congestion around there and improving safety and improving accessibility. And one of the things that they settled upon was one way to do that was to reconfigure that interstate exchange there and then create a new road that will go behind.
And that's where that first red arrow, the bottom red arrow.
Right. That's where Vandelay Drive is by the old Home Depot, where the administrative office of the courts is. And it'll go behind the Kroger and some of that's already there. This will be improved and expanded, but then it will go behind Franklin Square and the movie theater, and then connect in behind where the Elder Beerman, where the Norton Healthcare is going in, which
that's huge.
Good timing for them that this is also happening, and good. And so that whole area, that road will enable the rest of that to. It's gonna help so many people get in and out through the existing businesses over there, the Kroger. It's going to and then also where the paddocks is on that map there, that's a new proposed development.
And real quick, let's talk about that.
Grab that other
what
picture
the
of
intent?
There you go.
What the intent is of the paddocks?
Well, the plan now. Right now, the plan is Pat Madden might be taking that over.
Is that the Maddens from Lexington?
Yes, who developed Hamburg, and they would do the same thing. Not the same thing. Not like Hamburg.
That's huge.
Not that. But they would do a development here, and there would be some retail. Initially, there was. They had talked about mixed use, they would have some residential in there as well. I'm not sure if they will do that or not, but it would be a major retail and new to market restaurants that we don't have now. And
the Target, a lot of people are asking about Target. Target, Eric.
I don't know if they've settled on any retailer, but
I'd like to go in there.
But there's some big names out there you can think of that would be good for Frankfort.
Yeah,
Would be
Da Vinci's would be really good in there.
Yeah,
so we could afford it.
So, but that and in that area, it would take. So the state is they put in funds into the biennial budget to construct. So anything that's where the paddocks is there that you see, the developer, it would construct that. But there is a road that would connect to that would go behind those. The state would construct that, but the city would have some participation in that. And I think that's one of those or the city's willing to do our fair share to do the public investment to enable the whole thing to develop from there. And that's one of the ways that we can grow and still keep it in the boundaries, so to speak, and keep it. This some people might say it's not infill because it's not. There's nothing on there now, but it's within the interstate. It's already zoned commercial. I think it's where you want it.
If the right stores come in, the best thing about it is it'll stop people from driving to Lexington to go shopping because they can shop in Frankfort now.
And if the right stores are there and we have housing, then it's one more reason to live in Frankfort. Like, oh, why not live in Frankfort?
Right. And draw from Lawrenceburg and Shelby County.
And I think that particular stretch, that 127, is, for whatever reason, I'm not a real estate expert, or a retail expert, but that seems to be successful. I know Home Depot didn't, but we have a Super Walmart, Super Lowe's, Super Kroger. It's just something about that location that draws from several counties.
Right. Well, I guess there's one other thing I want to ask about on a positive note. We're big proponents of buffaloes for obvious reasons. Are we going to get buffaloes in our new Frankfort welcome signs and crosswalks? I'd mentioned this to one of your commissioners, Thompson. Offline, we need buffalo hoof prints in crosswalks. He's probably brought it to you by now. It wasn't his idea.
Okay, good to know. So he can't take credit for that. No, not that he would.
We'll give it to him anyway.
No, I've heard variations of this. I don't. We could do something like the horses in Lexington or the pigs in Cincinnati, and we would do buffalo in Frankfort and have painted buffaloes all over town.
Commissioner Walters just brought this up and said, "Yeah, Craig keeps harping on this."
Or doing if there's let's say we need a new project done in Frankfort, then maybe we can get a certain local company to help sponsor. Maybe they could have a large buffalo sculpture right out front. Now, those are things. But as far as I haven't heard about the crosswalks with the buffalo. But I could see having.
Well, I've
heard having buffalo around town.
Now, I've heard that we're getting new welcome signs. Are they going to be redesigned?
Out by the interstate,
both interstates, 53 and 50, because I'm tired of getting trolled by the mayor of Lawrenceburg and the mayor of Versailles.
For what?
They've got beautiful welcome signs. And then when I'll post something about our welcome signs, they're always commenting.
Yeah.
Or sending me a message, saying, look at ours.
Like we've got
it's a little competition.
That sounds like we're going to have to start
it's like
a conversation.
It's like comparing a Yugo to a BMW. We're way behind on this race.
Yeah, Mayor Young and Mayor Trowgett.
I'm not buying. Listen, in 2 years you come downtown Frankfort and then tell me who's.
Well, we got to fix our entrance. I know progress is being made. I know that, the wall.
But I hear you, the little things, and some of these are, but the good thing, some of those are easy fixes.
Right.
And that's
they just got to get done.
Right. These are not insurmountable.
Yeah.
And once we get it on our radar, and I think you've seen it so far, if it gets on our radar, we're going to get it done.
Right. Because I've been posting about that wall for years.
And I think we've reached. I think
the welcome sign was
being made on.
Yeah, welcome sign was in horrible shape, and it got rebuilt.
Got rebuilt
after an ESPN profile on Wandale Robinson. They scrolled across and saw that sign. Boy, I rolled it back, put it on Facebook real quick, and it got fixed fast.
Now, next time, don't put it on Facebook. Call us first and make sure that reach out to people who can actually fix it first, and then you can put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
But let us know first.
But I didn't know who to reach out to at the time. I do, I really did, but,
All right.
So, no, seriously, though, that's the thing. I don't ask anybody out there watching. If there's an issue, don't blast an email out. Don't put it. I mean, you can do all that, but you got to notify us,
It is
too.
the United States,
If you don't tell us, then we don't know, right? And I've had that issue on a couple things. Like, you got to tell us. Like,
you got the app.
Right.
Hey, tell us if you've got the C-Click-Fix app, or just email a commissioner or the mayor.
How fast?
And what you see a lot, though, is people get on like Frankfort rants and post anonymously. Like,
that drives me crazy.
It drives me crazy. I put no credence in somebody who doesn't have the nerve to tie their name to it.
And I don't.
like-
I'm never on there. So
Don't
if
go
if
on
you
there.
think
It's pointless.
Right,
Yeah.
If you think I'm on
It's
there,
the new
reading,
topics.
I'm not on there. So
Yeah.
that's not how you're gonna get me to.
But we're making progress.
We are.
Things are going along.
We're just getting, in many ways, we're in many ways we're in an unprecedented period of investment in Frankfort, and we're just getting started.
Well, Mayor, that's why we like bringing you guys on here, and the leaders of we've had Mark Kopp come here, we've had Sheriff Choir, Commissioner Thompson, now you
and Tim Farmer,
but the citizens don't always know what you guys are doing. And I think it's important to give an opportunity. Yeah, we'll ask hard questions, but we also want to make sure that we give you guys the credit and an opportunity to express that, here's what is being done. This is in the works, and this is what has been accomplished. Because I think it's really important to share the wins.
No, it's and that's the important thing. There's a lot of positive things, and that's what we should focus on, knowing that there's a lot we need to work on. And there's
that's what we try to do. We try to be mostly positive and promote Frankfort, but there's little things that can be done, like the weeds along the roadway. See, because that leads to my last thing was we've got, and I'll tell you something after we're done that I encountered today, but we've got to do something to figure out the state roads and the city roads and who is in charge, and do you need permission to do this or that?
Yeah.
Because the roads in our town, we're District 5 is in Louisville. We tried to move Frankfort to District 7 in Lexington for the road stuff, but with everything going on in Louisville, all the road building they're doing out there, we're an afterthought. And so we got to instead of waiting on state government to do everything, we got to start doing it ourselves. I don't know how you do that.
Well, you do need permission, but that is something we.
What would happen if you didn't?
What would happen? Because you may not know. I don't know. Is if you just took off and cleaned up every weed on every state road.
Because I brought that up to Penny. She goes, "You can't do that." And I said, "What are they going to do? Arrest me because I'm cutting down a bunch of damn weeds?"
Some of those, they spread
Fertilizer, I believe.
They do something. Hey, right, I forgot. Not fertilizer, but something to kill it. Like you have to have a special. The state has a contract with someone, and it's like I don't know. But that is something we're working on, because this year is when
it's been crazy. We've had an unprecedented growth.
It
season.
feels like it.
When you got 5 foot tall weeds on every road in this town.
And I've also still been mowing my yard once a week.
You have?
Yes. But that's my point on that. It's unprecedented to be at the end of August and never yet have stopped. I mean, between the rainfall and everything.
Right, yeah, we're not having the drought.
We're seeing, yes, and that's something now that it's on the radar.
Right.
And I hope we don't have to deal with
this. Yeah, because we're
going to keep it on the radar.
Yeah, on our podcast, we're getting about 1,000 to 1,200 views with no promotion. After a week, we'll go back and check them.
So this will get.
Oh,
we'll see. This will get 2,000. Right?
I hope so.
It probably will.
I hope it does. Commissioner Thompson's got 1,000.
Right.
Gosh, don't.
Today we got what was we supposed to call him? Royal Highness the Mayor, Honorable Layne Wilkerson. Was that the title? Or?
I don't know. But
just kidding.
I posted a picture of a pizza yesterday. It's got 8,800 views for a picture of a pizza. But it is a spectacular pizza.
I had one question from the audience. The new product, and just a simple yes or no in respect for your time, Mayor. The paddocks, is that going to be a TIF district?
The paddocks is.
Okay.
Already is.
Yeah.
And that's a state, right? A state.
That won't be right now. It's just the city and county
TIF.
Sharing our property taxes, but it does not include library or health department or any schools. So it's just it's the two of us, the government sharing our.
So that won't go through economic development. Okay.
Because there's special rules there that it wouldn't qualify. We don't think.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm good.
Buffaloes.
Buffaloes.
everybody's, a lot of things happening, positive mindset, and again, we're just getting started. And I can't
Shop
wait.
local. Shop in
local.
Frankfort. We all benefit when we shop in Frankfort.
Right.
And
Okay,
stay
Eric.
tuned for more. Thank you all for doing this, and I'm glad to see that people are out there watching.
Think you might come back, Mayor?
I'll come back on this show.
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay. That's what we
Awesome.
want to hear.
Maybe not 2 weeks now, but from now.
No.
on.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh,
We got
yeah.
other people lined up already.
No, I enjoy that. I love spreading the message and the good word that what we're doing.
Okay. Eric, you want to take us out?
I'm pretty good. Thank you, sir, for your time and spending the evening with us and the
Good conversation.
good conversation and compliments to both of us. And with that, we will see everyone in about 2 weeks.
Yep.